for coming in. We want to give you a second to come into the room. We know that you guys are probably coming off calls. It's Friday. Shout out to Friday. Alex, what's happening, man?
Good
Ready,
day.
ready to have a good conversation?
Definitely, always.
Me and this man have had incredible conversations over our years as friends. So let me tell you a little bit about who's joining me today. Alex Carver joins me today, but he's not just a peer, not just a sales professional, but one of the most fun, interesting, accomplished people that I've met. So I'm pleased that I get to introduce him to all of you today. He is a frontline seller at SimPay, which sells payroll solutions, employee management solutions, POS systems, and growth tools for businesses across North America. Prior to that, he spent 4 years on the front lines at Beyond. And with one of the largest local networks here in Tennessee, Alex is gaining more traction. This is the interesting part, y'all. And we're going to talk about this while we're in the conversation. Alex and his wife, Erin, have raised 3 teenagers to be entrepreneurs. They all own and run their own businesses. This guy's teaching values of grit, determination, standing on your own 2 feet, making your own decisions, being your own person. I know all 3 of these children, and I can tell you that it's extremely impressive. So welcome to the show, pal. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about our sponsors. Shout out to our sponsors. If it was not for these people, we would not be able to do shows like this for you. Surviving Sales is all about the individuals that have been sales professionals for a long time. They have lots of insights to share. And if it wasn't for these folks supporting shows like this, we wouldn't be able to bring them to you. So get your screenshot, take a picture, write them down, whatever you need to do. But learn about these companies, see how they can help you book more meetings, close more deals, sell more solutions to more customers. All right, let's get into it here. I want to talk with you about selling payroll specifically because you have an ideal prospect. What is something that's nuanced about selling into payroll and your solutions that no other seller would have to ask?
So when we kind of went over the questions last week, this is one that kind of really stuck with me. I feel like anybody that is a sales professional is going to know the same kind of information, is going to be asking the same kind of questions. I feel like if they're educated and they know what they're doing. So I feel like the biggest thing that I can do, and anybody that's in sales can do, is be real, be a fan of their business. A gentleman asked me a few months ago, "Hey, what's the difference if I go with you? What's the big deal?" And I said, "Well, the big deal is you get me. I'm going to be a fan of your business. I'm going to, when somebody says, 'Hey, where do I get my car repaired?' or whatever the business is, I'm going to recommend you. I'm going to suggest that. I'm also not going to just sign you up and never see or hear from you again. I'm going to drop back by. I'm going to check on you, see how things are going. I also want to be a resource for my customer. I want them to know. I tell them, listen, I network all the time. So if you need a business attorney or if you need whatever, you need a service, let me know. I want to be a resource for you. Not only that way I'm top of mind when they need my services, but also I just want to be their connection to other people.
That's part of that net of Indra that I talk about a lot. And you and I have had that conversation. Everybody's connected. Man, you're so well connected locally. There's always somebody in your chamber ready to load up and hand to someone else and say, who you should talk to? And I think that's a big asset for sellers everywhere that we don't take advantage of very often. Doesn't matter what industry you sell into. If you're a resource and a valuable connection to other connections all around for your prospects, I feel like they would come to you for more things. And isn't that what we want?
Right. I mean, I had a gentleman that actually referred somebody else to me. They called me and they said, "Hey, Bob told me to call you. I don't really know why, but I
don't know why.
I need this person." And I'm like, "Oh, I definitely have him. I'll send it to you right now." And he was like, "So why are you his connect?" I said, "Well, I try to be, I'm always out networking. So I try to have resources to help my clients and help other people with."
Well, it's always good to have that resource ready to go. And that's part of what you do really well. One of the things that I know you're good at is consistency. So most sellers have this terrible, and especially SDRs and AEs, probably not customer success. I think that's probably the only statistical outlier in the predictable revenue scheme. But when you talk about SDRs, you're talking about account executives. We're after a goal. If you're an SDR, you're after a meeting. And if you're a AE, you're after the close. But once we get that, many sellers just vanish. They just disappear. But you keep coming back. That's your stay. That's your go-to. But it's yielded you a lot of other opportunities in the future, and I admire that.
It's kind of a funny thing. I had when I first went through training with SimPay, there was a guy there that also was in Knoxville. We're remote, and so we kind of talked off screen. And he said, "I don't want to go out and bump into your customers and take your customers. I was like, well, if you can take my customer, they're not my customer.
Oh,
And he was like, oh, I said, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about whose customer they are. Just go out there and talk to people and get them. But I develop a relationship with people that would want a relationship. I want to be their resource. But I mean, I enjoy knowing about, I'm very relationship oriented anyway. So I enjoy learning about their kids, their grandkids, whatever's going on in their life. And then also, if they ever have an issue or problem, they're easier to reach out and contact me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that part of it is the part of it that I think you do really well is you make it real easy to talk to you. You make it so that people want to talk to you. And I often say that that's the first chasm that we have to cross. How do I get it so that this person wants to talk to me? I call you for everything. If I have something and I think you know somebody, I'm going to call you. Or,
well, thank you. Yeah.
Or if I think that there's somebody you know that could introduce me to somebody, I will call you. And that's like, I think of you in that light. In most businesses, gatekeepers are a huge thing. You kind of have a double-edged sword because you call people a lot. You're very active on social, reaching out to people and talking to them there. And then you're also in person. You do a lot of like, I'm going to come by, I'm going to drop in. You probably deal with a lot of gatekeepers in your space. So what's the go-to for you?
The funny thing is, I saw a meme about it a little while ago, back when email first came out, you'd get letters in the mail and be like, no big deal. Oh, but I got an email. And now it's the exact opposite. If you get emails, you're kind of going through them, ignoring them. But if you get a letter in the mail, you're like, oh man, wow, look at somebody took the time to write a letter. And so I use that. I do send letters and thank you notes and that kind of thing. But the same thing is true for just cold calling, walking in. People appreciate the fact that they know this is hard to do. So when they come in, they kind of give you a little bit of respect just for the fact that you're out talking to people. I try to be really transparent when I come in, and I just say, hey, I do payroll, credit card processing, business lending, different kinds of tools that we can help your business with. I'd like to see if I can set up a time to meet with a decision maker. And
you use the term decision maker when you're in real time, like in person. You have to do it, right? Because you don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't want to. I do chase a lot, but at the same time, I don't want to. We kind of had this conversation a little bit last time about. I do a lot of garages because the owner is usually on the premises.
Yeah, and
I like that aspect. If I'm in a restaurant, mom and pop kind of deal, I might ask if the owner is in. But the restaurant owners are usually there really early, or if they have 4 or 5 restaurants, it may be hit or miss when they're ever there,
bouncing back and forth between locations.
So
but you do the warehouses and the garages because you've learned that you sell well into those models.
They're usually really busy and they don't have time to BS. So they come in, they're like, yeah, what do you want? And I'm like, hey, I do payroll and credit card processing. I'd like to see if I could schedule a time to meet with you. Oh, I don't have time to meet with you. I'm not trying to meet with you now. I'm looking at next week or next month.
Right. You take the pressure off of the now, right?
And because I know they're busy. And so they're like, dude, I don't have time for this. And then sometimes people will say, I get 3 dozen phone calls. That's exactly why I don't make phone calls. I show up in person. We do things differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're a stayer, right? Like I'm the person, I'm your point of contact. Here's my cell phone number. I think that's how you and I connected initially. We were like exchanging numbers and then we just started texting. And before I knew it, we were hanging out. Like it was just that way. And I feel like that's something similar that would happen. People want to spend time with you. You provide them value. You don't vanish afterwards. With 20 years of sales experience, what's the best training you've received in all of this back and forth?
It's really going to sound odd, but I sold timeshare for about 6 months to a year. But the way the company that I went and worked for did it was very psychological. So you would meet somebody, you would take them into the room. They wanted you to eat with them because eating builds trust. They wanted you to do like an about me page. That way that somebody could see you as not just a salesperson, but as a person. And we explained everything and went through it. So I learned a lot from that. And I do that nowadays with myself, especially if I go in and like to a garage and the guy's like, man, I'm really happy with what I got, or no, I don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, I deal with entrepreneurs all the time. My kids are entrepreneurs. I have a 15, 18, 19-year-old. They all have their own business. My 15-year-old actually just sold her business when she turned 15. She had a goat rental business. And
a goat rental business, y'all. The business was called I Goat This. You just can't ask for something better.
Her Facebook page is still up because we don't really know how to deactivate that. But we've actually gotten like 6 calls in the last 2 weeks, and we're so sorry. But I tell them about the kids, tell them about their businesses and what they do. And then at the end, I'm like, hey, if I could ever help you with any of my services, I'll be glad to. And they're like, dude, well, you can definitely come back and talk to me again, because that's pretty impressive. They're like, I don't know anybody that has 3 kids that each have their own business. So I definitely try to use that to have people talk to me and see me as a real person. I went to a speed networking thing one time where walked out with somebody wanting to rent goats. My oldest daughter makes all kinds of cakes, and my son mows yards and pressure washes houses. So I had a referral for each one of them, and I was like, guys, what about me? And they're like, you're just not as fun to refer. And I was like, I get it. But
yeah, the payroll is not as fun as the goats or the cakes.
They're not as cute either, So yeah, it's definitely a different scenario. But I definitely enjoy talking about my kids, and I go out, I definitely try to bring that up with the fact that you get to see that people see me as not just a salesperson, but as a father, and they're impressed with the kids and what they're doing.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the kids, because I do want to get into that a little bit. If you had to tell somebody what the trick was, what's the secret to raising your kids that have this business mindset, this entrepreneurial mindset in their more formative years, what would you say that you and Aaron did really well to get them thinking on that level?
We basically came along and we said, listen, we'll do this.
It's what we're willing to do.
If you want to go on these trips, or if you want to do these activities, we'll take care of this. Anything above that, you're going to have to take on. It really started with my oldest daughter now. When she was 14, she wanted to go to Honduras on a mission trip with our church, and it was $1,500. And I was like, I'm just not really at 14 prepared to pay $1,500. She's like, no, I want to raise the money. And I was like, hey, in that case, we will help you, and we will, help you strategize and come up with some ideas. So she started baking and doing that. And we said, look, we'll buy the ingredients, and you can keep all the money that way. But then after she got back from the trip, orders kept coming in, and she'd really found a passion in the meantime of doing that. And then her and my son came to me and said, hey, we want cell phone service. And I was like, yeah, you want cell phone service. You don't really need it. We homeschool, so there wasn't really a need for like trying to coordinate after school and different things. And I hate doing yard work. And so my wife's like, my gift to you is we're going to get somebody to do the yard. And I was like, okay, guys, the only thing that we're paying for right now is the yard to be mowed. So if y'all want to mow the yard, we'll pay for cell phone service. And that's kind of how both those businesses started. Some people saw my son mowing and wanted to hire him to do more.
So his son Ivy has a business, Carver's Cutters, and that's his business. That's what he does. And this is how that business got started.
So yeah, and then my youngest daughter, I really don't think she was as entrepreneurial as the other two, but she saw them making money, and she was like, wait a minute, I want to. I
don't want to be left out.
Exactly. So animals love her, and she loves animals. So she started boarding dogs, but boarding dogs and cake baking in the same house don't really go good together.
That's true.
And that's so true.
Hairy cakes are not a high seller.
Not repeat business.
Yeah, you can't name the business Hairy Cakes either. That's
yeah, it didn't have the same ring.
No ring.
So really, we found a lady that was getting ready to get rid of a couple of goats, and really kind of more as pets. We said, listen, we'll take the last money that you made from dog boarding, and we'll buy 2 goats. And our fence line had always been overgrown, and I was like, man, we've got 8 months of food right there, but in 3 days they ate 30 feet of fence line, and I was like, you're gonna have to rent those out. And that's kind of how that started. Because she was like, wait a minute, who wants to rent goats? I said, people who want that.
So let's back up for a minute. I just want to make it clear so you guys understand. Zoe wanted to go on a mission trip through the church to Honduras, but wanted to raise the money herself. She started baking cakes, and the business was born. Ivy wanted cell phone service with Zoe, and they didn't know how to get the money together, and they needed someone to be cutting the grass because grass has to get mowed. So Ivy starts mowing lawns. Other people ask Ivy to do it. Carver's Cutters is born. Then Alina doesn't want to be left out, likes animals, ends up boarding dogs. They end up with goats after she clears some dough. And then I Goat This is born. And now there's these 3 businesses. I told Alex, and let me know in the chat if you agree, he should just open Carver Media and manage all his kids' businesses. That would be the move.
Well, the thing I like to bring up about it is that each one started with no money out of pocket. My son started with just a mower we had at the house. He now has a 0 turn and a walk behind, and a car that he's paid for, and a trailer and that kind of thing. So, but I mean, originally all of them started with no money out of pocket, which to me is pretty amazing for any businesses to do.
Yeah, any entrepreneur out there that's done it before, or even a solopreneur, somebody that's a consultant that does their own thing, you know how hard it is to build something from nothing, and that's what these folks have accomplished. It's truly remarkable. All right, so who influences you in your demeanor, your routines? You and I ride the same like positivity wave. I think we field positive stuff very well, and we avoid negativity in a very good way. We share that vibe. So who are the people that influence you and got you to where you are now? Someone that impacted your life?
So my dad is a retired minister. His leadership, obviously just from the pulpit, but also living the life that he, led from the pulpit. But also Jocko Willick's book, Extreme Ownership, Andy Andrews, The Traveler's Gift. Those books like that. Andy Andrews is really good about changing perspective. He has 2 sons that are, I think, in the early 20s now. And he said, I want to raise great adults. Everybody says they want to raise great kids, but I want to raise great adults. And just that little twist in thinking, if your kids are great when you're around, but they're jerks when you're not there, you're not accomplishing what you're setting out to accomplish. So I remember, attitude and effort. I know it's one of the pillars of SayWhatSales, but that's one of the things we always talk about is there's only 2 things you control in life is attitude and effort. One time Zoe we also do jujitsu as a family. I just started doing it. I'm a little sore right now from that, but
it'll hurt you.
Definitely. Zoe went to a tournament. She lost by a judge's decision. And so I let her calm down. And afterwards we had a conversation. I was like, hey, what happened? She said, well, he made the wrong decision. And I said, okay, but whose fault is that?
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, if you had gotten more points or if you had submitted her, he wouldn't have had a voice or wouldn't have had a choice in it. And she was like, okay. I was like, so what are you going to do? She says, I'm going to have a good attitude. I'm going to go congratulate her. And then I'm going to go put more effort in the gym on doing submissions and making sure I have the right points.
Don't leave it up to the judge. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to not leave it up to the judge. So yeah, that is one of the pillars that we talk about all the time. So this came from John's daughter, Charlotte. John teaches her this. We can only control 3 things in our lives: our effort, our attitude, and how we treat other people. Everything else is circumstantial or it's impacted by our environment. We have 100% control over those 3 things. And I love that you're sharing those values with your children and they're taking them and inputting them into their professional and personal lives. I think that's something we could all take a note from. If you could go back in time and tell 17-year-old Alex Carver a piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
For me, I think it would be relax and not stress about so much stuff, but also just, everything's going to be okay. Keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Jocko Willick talks about extreme ownership. And I think I'd also advise to take a little bit more ownership of your decisions, where you're at, where you want to be. Probably those simple things like that.
Mm-hmm. So ownership is a big part of salespeople's professional trajectories, because as SDRs, we don't own a lot of our results in our minds, but the reality is the way we put our effort in and the amount of work we put towards being an SDR impacts the results. We could always work harder, do more, improve our status, and we don't own those lackings in some ways. Account executives sometimes miss the mark, and instead of saying, I didn't do enough prospecting this month, they're like, the SDRs or marketing didn't connect me with enough leads, right? And we pass the buck when it comes to ownership and accountability. What's the secret to holding others accountable and holding yourselves accountable? What do you think?
For others, I mean, I'm hiring right now, so I'm developing a team. For me, I have to lead by example, so I mean, it's not just a, great example. Last month, I had a deal that was sitting in their email inbox waiting to be signed, and I thought it was going to already be done, but I was short on my goal because I didn't get that done, and so I went out and got 2 other deals on the last day of the month and exceeded my goal. So I mean, going out and
did you close that one yet? Did it roll over to the following?
He's gonna do it in this month.
There you go. Yeah. So, yeah. So sometimes you got to let that one float and you got to go hustle to make it happen and get to that next stage in your quota. Right.
Well, right. I mean, people can tell if you're desperate for something. And so that makes them nervous. Okay. Why, if you're calling them 12 times, hey, I just need you to go ahead and sign that. Hey, they're like,
That tension is yours. Don't pass it over to me.
Exactly. And so just because you may be trying to hit a goal or maybe trying to hit a bonus or something, that anxiety that you're passing on to them may cost you the deal completely. So one thing that was really good, if I'm talking to my kids about, hey, if you need to do, if they want to go on a trip or they want to do something and they need, more sales or more money coming in, I always felt like anytime I was pointing my finger at them talking about something, I had three fingers pointing back at me. And I was like, man, but I mean, being transparent in leadership with my kids, saying, hey, why I was stressed at the end of last month? Because I didn't do enough work in the beginning of the month. And, I was stressed at the end of the month. So trying to have those transparent, teachable moments and being real to my clients is also a huge key for me.
It's a part, I think, of our growth and development to hold ourselves accountable. And I don't think we get there until we're truly invested in the work that we do. Right. I think you're a passionate seller. I don't think you're passionate about, the products or the service or what you're selling. I think you're passionate about the process. I think you like networking, and networking has served you really well. I look at you and I consider you an expert networker. So let's talk a little bit about networking and what it's done for your career.
I really enjoy LinkedIn. I've got about 26,000 connections. Like you said before, that a lot of those are local. And what I generally try to put out is things that have touched me and have meant something to me. So I feel like if it meant something to me, then I'll put it out. It means something to somebody else. I do chambers and all kinds of different kinds of networking groups, that kind of deal. And what I enjoy there is when I meet somebody, oh, hey, you need to talk to so-and-so. I enjoy the connection. Again, I feel like if I'm out there in the community and I'm helping other people, it'll come back, maybe not from that person, but
it's a two-way road is what you're saying, right? If you're always out there networking and connecting dots for other people, they'll be willing to connect dots for you. I'm sure it happens more often in your network because you're so active about that than it happens for most people who have giant networks but don't really engage and don't do the referral. We always talk about referrals. We just did a webinar on this. Referrals have the highest conversion rate, and yet so many people struggle to get referrals. What's your referral flow? Do you just come right out and ask? Are you very direct with your people when you ask for those referrals? Do you ask for introductions, knowing the difference between the two? What's the magic formula for you on that front? Because you have a very large network.
Generally for referrals, especially for customers, I always like for them to have probably at least 2 months of processing with me, either payroll or credit card processing before I go. Because number one, I want to make sure they've had enough time
to experience it, right?
To experience it, but to also have gotten the bill and not be upset or, hey, what was this charger?
Yeah.
I don't want them to refer me and then later on go, oh, dude, don't use him or something. So I want to make sure they're a happy customer that I could, have another reason for going back by, hey, I want to make sure that you got your bill and everything I said on there is correct. And then also I've shared some ideas and that kind of stuff about their business by this point. I'm relationship oriented. I like to get in there and help the customer. So whether it is their need for somebody for marketing or they just need some ideas, like I said, I refer those books also that, The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews, Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership. I refer those and give those out to clients. So it gives me another reason to come back by and develop that relationship beforehand. Hey, what do you think about the book? Or did it help you with anything? Looking for those other connections and stay points. And also it builds them, if we're in a relationship and somebody comes in and says, oh, hey, I can beat you by, save you $20 or $30 a month. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to do a whole lot better than that if you want my customers, so.
Yeah, it's like you said, right? If you can take them that easily, they're not my customer. Let's circle back to that because I think that's a problem that a lot of sellers have, especially sellers that work on teams. Sometimes there's a history. Now, let's be honest. Sometimes it's been 4 months since a seller has talked to them. At that point, is it fair game? Can you go ahead and put your foot in the door? Do you go talk to the seller first? What's your etiquette?
I mean, for me, if showing up on the door and they're saying, man, I haven't seen my credit card processing guy or payroll guy since they signed me up. To me, then
that's an open door. But
right.
I'm saying on your team though, right? Would you, because here's what happens. So let me explain it from a software perspective. SDRs sitting in a room, we all prospect into accounts. And when one person has an account that they're prospecting into and then it kind of falls off, there's a couple months that go by and another SDR will see that account and go start talking to that account. It's a dead account because in 4 months, no one said a word to this account. So I can pick it up and run with it. But then if the deal goes, that SDR that dropped the ball will come forward and say, oh no, that was my account. I talked to them first. Where's the line for you? How do you navigate that very delicate internal conflict that's potential there?
I guess I would probably work more about being transparent on the communication.
Okay. Yeah. So they would know that this is the cutoff for communication on your deals.
You haven't talked to them in 2 months. You have no new notes or nothing in there before about, hey, I'm going to follow back up, or
right. No task set, right?
Right. So to me, at that point, they would be fair game in that time. And to me, I think more of what I would worry about is making the connection than trying to jump in and sell them something.
Yeah. So let's talk about the sell them something, because I think one of your gifts, and I've seen you do this in real time, one of your gifts is that you almost never have an ask when you first meet with somebody. It comes way later in your cycle. And I think salespeople in general have a terrible habit of early asking. So I want to hear from you. Like when you first initially meet somebody, you put off this vibe of like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. And that's like, I use the like body language because that's how you do it, right? I've seen you do, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything, right? Like, why is this important? How does this help you?
I guess it kind of goes back to not wanting somebody to see me as a salesperson, but to see me as
a human being. Yeah.
You know, I've got kids, I've got a wife, I've got other things going on in my life besides just sales. But obviously I still need to sell to take care of them in the aspect. But no, when I go in, I'm wanting to talk more about the business owner, what they have going on, what's stressing them out.
Yeah.
What is causing them issues. Because if I can, a lot of times when you're going in, okay, the money's being processed. Yeah, you might be able to save me some money, but what's the real advantage of coming on board? So it's not just, oh, can you save me money? No, I'm actually going to refer you. I'm gonna drop back by. I'm gonna offer suggestions.
Yeah,
and books
we're gonna be friends,
right?
You know,
and if not close, almost like family. That's kind of how I see my customers.
It becomes harder to walk away from you as a client when you're that connected, and that's where the renewals come from. That's where the referrals come from. That's where the network starts to become super valuable. All right. So
another example, like, and I brought James some peanut butter fudge today. I give my customers peanut butter fudge that we make for Christmas. And I've heard several customers go, dude, I always look forward to Christmas because I know I'm going to get peanut butter fudge from you. So just little things like that, showing appreciation is a huge deal.
I don't think that he comes over and doesn't bring me things when he does come over. It's almost always something. Watermelon seeds. It's always something. So one of the things that I think we want to talk about before we wrap up here is like, where's it all going for you? You're building a team right now. You're hiring. How many people are you hiring for right now?
Eventually, I want to get to 10. Right now, my manager, my VP, has said I need to try to do, hire one person a month.
And what are the roles that you're hiring for?
So it's for sales to go out remotely. We're looking for somebody that's got 2 years experience in the credit card industry. We're going to show you our simple way of doing things, show you how to do it, but then we expect you to basically use your experience to continue on with our company.
Yeah.
So we do things a little bit differently. We pay a base plus commission and plus residual. So,
Nice. So it's a great opportunity. And I think that young sellers everywhere should come in with these opportunities to start fresh, learn from the bottom up. And that might improve their learning and development, their growth trajectory, and obviously their career satisfaction. I don't meet a lot of people that are as passionate about the sales process and the people in sales as I am, but Alex is definitely one of them. Final piece of advice for everybody in the room.
For me, it's really just keep growing and keep learning. I just started doing jujitsu with my family because they're all in jujitsu. I'm really sore today because of it. But it's something that my 15-year-old can beat me at. It's very humbling to come out and not have a clue what you're doing, but it's no other way that you're not going to grow is to step out and do something new.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and sharing all your wisdom. We're going to have to do this again, and
Definitely.
I look forward to our next meal together. We tend to have good lunches and good conversation. Thank you to all of you for coming and joining Surviving Sales today. Join us next week when we bring you another stellar guest to help you guys sell better, do more, become more successful. That's the name of the game here. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.